Okay, so now we're going to make homemade chicken and dumplings, the old-fashioned style. And I start with 4 cups of plain all-purpose flour. I have a cup of Crisco, a cup of cold water, a teaspoon and a half of salt. This is 4 chicken breasts that I've already boiled and it's cooled. I've cut it up. The broth is in this pot that I cooked the chicken in. So the pot is about a little more than half full of the broth, and I'm actually going to go ahead and put this on the stove and get it warm. Okay, so in the broth over there on the stove, I'm going to add a half a stick of butter. And so I've got the stove on medium-high heat, and I'm just going to go ahead and let it get hot and melt the butter. Okay, so into my flour, I'm going to put a teaspoon and a half of salt. And I'm just going to use my right hand and just mix that together. Okay. Now I'm going to put in a cup of Crisco. I'm going to break it off into pieces and just drop it in my flour salt mixture. Okay, so I'm just going to get this all mixed together into my flour mixture. And it'll probably take about 3 minutes to get it the way I want it. Okay, so I'm just going to continue doing this with the Crisco in it until it's nice and crumbly. And then I'm going to add 1 cup of cold water. I usually just have some water with ice in it, and then I pour it in my measuring cup to measure out 1 cup. And then I'm going to put my hand back in there and squish it around some more. This is the messiest part. And after you do this for about 2 minutes or so, you should be able to form a soft ball like Play-Doh. And it'll be a little bit firmer than Play-Doh. It'll be kind of flaky. So I'm going to just continue to do this for a good 2-3 minutes. Okay, now I'm using both hands and I'm going to form it into a ball. It's still rather flaky. That's okay. This is the consistency I want it to be. Just like dry Play-Doh. Okay. Alright, so once I get it the way I want it, I'm going to divide the dough in half. Eyeball it. Squeeze it within your fingers. And then I'm going to get some flour. So I have a good floured surface. I want to do that so it doesn't stick to the table. And then I'm going to put some flour on my rolling pin and I'm going to roll it out. And you want to roll the dumplings about 1/4 of an inch of thickness, or even a little less than that. So I start in the middle and I work my way to the edges. And this is okay. See how it's kind of falling apart? Just keep pressing it together. It's okay. Okay, so now I've got it pretty much flattened out. I'm going to lift this and put it next to the stove, where I'm going to cut it and drop it into my broth. Okay, I'm going to get my pastry cutter and I'm just going to cut it into strips. You can make them as thick or as thin as you would like. Then I'm going to go this way. Okay, and then I'm going to check my broth, and it needs to be just before boiling. You don't want it boiling, but you want it very, very hot. And I can see it's just about ready. So I'm just going to drop these in there as quickly as I can. And the one thing you want to remember with dumplings is that you can't stir it, or you're not supposed to stir it with a spoon. You can kind of jiggle the pot a little bit, or you can get your, actually a wooden spoon is what I usually use, and you can kind of push them down a little bit, but you don't want to stir them. You don't want to tear them. That might just tear them apart. But also be aware that you don't want them to, any of them to fall on the bottom and scald. So it is important to kind of mix them up a little bit, but it must be done very, very gently.